Call of Duty has always had a special place in my heart. I remember first playing the first Modern Warfare back in high school years ago and getting home from school, skipping homework and getting online as soon as possible just so me and my friends could all group up and play together. It was addicting, and still to this day, no matter how bad a Call of Duty is, I still enjoy them. One of the reasons I enjoy them so much is just because of the variety of weapons that you have at your disposal, such as assault rifles, light machine guns, and hell, you can even run around with a knife if you wanted to. But one class always stood out to me the most, and it was a class that was the most insanely satisfying to use, but at the same time, incredibly frustrating to die to. The shotguns. If there was one thing you need to know about me, and what I do on my channel, it's that I'm a shotgunner all the way. Some of you probably don't like that, but that's okay. Shotguns to me have always been the true definition of high risk, high reward. For the most part. As always, there's a few exceptions to that rule. In any FPS, I tend to gravitate towards the shotgun simply because I find them the most enjoyable to use, especially in Call of Duty. Lately though, I haven't felt the same excitement I used to have when I used shotguns in older CODs, and I'm not saying they're weak at all. Look at the MOG 12 in Black Ops 4, it's incredibly deadly with the right attachments, and it's a blast to use. But for some reason, I don't find myself wanting to come back and blast people in close quarters as much as I used to. So, I decided it was a good time to revisit the old days. Back after Black Ops 1 release, I remember going to college and focusing primarily on my studies, so I left my game consoles behind just so they couldn't possibly tempt me away from my schoolwork. But I kept seeing things online, specifically on YouTube, about Black Ops 2, and it was all fine until I saw one particular video by Drifter that really piqued my interest. And it was a video about a certain gun that we're going to get into that broke me down and caused me to get right back into Call of Duty as soon as I got my console back. And what gun, you might ask? Well, let's take a metaphorical time machine back to the year 2012, a time when COD was the pinnacle of the FPS genre, and I decided I wanted to come back to COD to get my hands on what I consider my favorite and the best shotgun in Call of Duty history. Now that's more like it. Ladies and gentlemen, the KSG from Black Ops 2 is what I consider to be the greatest shotgun in Call of Duty history, and my personal favorite shotgun in the Call of Duty franchise. But before I get into what makes this gun so great, I just wanted to take a second to talk about the real-life counterpart to this gun, to help get a better understanding of the gun itself and give some interesting insight about it. The KSG was developed by a company known as Kel-Tec, which is known for creating weapons with unique designs, and the KSG is no exception. It features a capacity of an insane 14 shells. And if you're wondering, how does a shotgun hold that kind of ammunition? Well, the KSG features 2 chambers that sit underneath the barrel, holding up to 7 shells each, with shells of your choosing. So although the Black Ops 2 KSG fires a slug, the real-life version is able to choose whichever ammunition you prefer. And I personally have held the KSG in real life, and I gotta say, it's extremely compact. So the Black Ops 2 KSG features slug-type ammunition, and for those of you who do not know, a slug is basically a shell which features a giant chunk of metal in the inside, and it enables the user to be able to hit targets from a much further range as opposed to typical buckshot, such as shots like this. Just to remind you, you are still watching gameplay of a shotgun. This is the first Call of Duty game to feature slug-type ammunition, and while it has appeared in future iterations of the series, none of them could quite compare to the KSG in its ultimate glory. So as you just saw, the KSG is capable of some pretty ridiculous damage to enemies, so long as you know what you're doing with it, and to me, this gun epitomizes the idea of high risk, high reward. So now that you've seen what the KSG is capable of, let's take a look at some of the in-game stats for the weapon. All the stats you are seeing for this gun have been pulled directly from Drifter's in-depth video of the KSG, so I will link to his channel and to this video in the description as to give him credit. The KSG damage ranges from 75 health up to 200 health, meaning it will always be either a 1 to 2 body shot to kill. It's important to know, however, that a headshot will always be a one-shot kill as long as you are in range for the shotgun. While the damage output for this gun may not appear as large as other shotguns such as the Remington R870, you must remember that the KSG features a slug, so all of the damage is essentially condensed into one pellet. Other shotguns feature buckshot, so you have to take into account the spread of the pellets for these other shotguns. Now that we've got the hard stats out of the way, let's check out my personal go-to class for the KSG. This class has been my bread and butter. Whenever I use the KSG, I always go with the setup just like this. So first, we're going to start with the KSG, then we add the following attachments. Long barrel, which increases our overall range and one-shot kill potential. Quick draw, which allows me to snap the targets as fast as possible. And laser sight to increase my hipfire capabilities. Now, how hipfiring works on the KSG is that one slug coming from the gun will travel anywhere within your crosshairs, much like how a sniper rifle works in Call of Duty. This makes the KSG seem a bit unreliable at close range, given as how the hit spread can be a bit random. So, generally you want to aim down sights as much as possible, but in some situations, such as if an enemy is right in your face, it's not always appropriate to aim down sights, or it's not always the best option. This is where the laser sight comes in. Wherever the laser is pointed at, the shot will go. It makes the hipfire for the gun infinitely better, but it will take a lot of practice, and this also highlights how the gun is so high risk because you absolutely need to be 100% on point with your aim, and it can be very unforgiving. As for other attachments, you could run a red dot sight if you choose to, but I found the iron sights to be very good and very unobstructive. You can choose to run a silencer, which lowers your one-shot kill range, but can lead to some hilarious kills. I mean, when you put a silencer on the KSG, it just sounds hilarious, and it's a blast to use.
We've taken the advantage.
Want to get paid? Move it! Stitch them up!
When it comes to how the KSG works best, obviously you want to aim down sights as much as possible. It shines primarily at medium range, where your one-shot kill range is at its limits, but it gets even more ridiculous when you perfect your aim so that you can nail 2 shots on a moving target at long distances. I've challenged all sorts of weapons at long range, like snipers and ARs, and I've won against them many times, typically to receive some form of hate mail or accusations of cheating or saying that the KSG is OP. And of course that's when these people bring out their own KSG class only to go 1-for-1 or go negative and bring their team down. Ah, the good old days. So while I could talk about this gun all day, I think I've said most of what I need to in order to show you all why I think this gun is the king of all Call of Duty shotguns. The power, the accuracy, the range, it's all there, and you just need to practice with it to perfect it. That is, if you can find a lobby that isn't filled with people flying around or 360 no-scoping you with a sniper rifle that shoots rockets. Seriously, finding a non-modded lobby on here is pretty difficult nowadays, and honestly, it's kinda sad. Anywho, if you haven't managed to give this gun a try, I seriously recommend finding your old copy of Black Ops 2 and firing it up. Or hell, go buy it if you don't own it. Buy it used and grind to get this gun. It's really worth the effort to get a feel for the gun, just to hear that satisfying crack the gun makes when you shoot it. And before I end this, just remember, this is largely a subjective topic. Yeah, there's hard facts and numbers to back my opinions, but sometimes a good gun isn't made just by numbers and stats. There's much more to a good gun. Someone may think I'm absolutely crazy for even considering this gun to be the best in COD history, or even the best shotgun in Call of Duty Black Ops 2 for that matter. But I hope this sparks some discussion amongst the community, specifically shotgunners. What do you think the best shotgun is in COD? Am I crazy? Do we need to revisit the pre-patch model 1887s? I hope not. But before I end this trip down memory lane, let me know what you thought of the video. This has been my biggest project so far, and if you enjoy this kind of content, be vocal about it. I love shotguns, and if you do too, let's spread the love. I'll be making plenty more videos to come. I'm even thinking of making a video about what I consider to be the worst shotgun in COD history. And there's plenty to choose from, believe me. But until then, thanks for sticking through this video, and I hope you have an awesome day.